If you can answer 25 of these 30 world history questions, you might just be a history genius. Let's find out how many you can get. But before that, please like and subscribe to the channel and don't forget to comment your score below. Let's go! Which British Prime Minister led during most of World War II? Winston Churchill. Churchill lost the general election in 1945, just months after leading Britain through the war's end in Europe. Which country was divided by the Berlin Wall? Germany. The wall stood for 28 years, from 1961 to 1989, physically dividing East and West Berlin during the Cold War. Which country dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima? United States. The bombing occurred on August 6, 1945, and a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki just 3 days later. Which revolution began in 1789? French Revolution. The revolution led to the eventual execution of King Louis XVI and the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte less than a decade later. Which war was ended by the Treaty of Versailles? World War I. The treaty's harsh reparations on Germany are widely viewed by historians as a contributing factor to the rise of World War II. Which country was the first to gift the Statue of Liberty to the United States? France. The statue was a gift to commemorate the alliance between France and the U.S. during the American Revolution. Who led the Cuban Revolution in 1959? Fidel Castro. Castro ruled Cuba for nearly 5 decades, making him one of the longest-serving heads of state in modern history. Who painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel? Michelangelo. Michelangelo reportedly resented the commission at first, considering himself primarily a sculptor rather than a painter. Who was assassinated in Sarajevo, triggering World War I? Archduke Franz Ferdinand. His assassination in 1914 set off a chain of alliances that rapidly escalated into a full-scale global war. Which empire built the Colosseum? Roman Empire. The Colosseum could hold an estimated 50,000 to 80,000 spectators for gladiatorial games and public spectacles. Which civilization built Machu Picchu? Inca. Machu Picchu was likely built as a royal estate and remained unknown to the outside world until its rediscovery in 1911. Which country was the first to industrialize? United Kingdom. The Industrial Revolution began in Britain in the late 18th century, driven partly by innovations in textile manufacturing and steam power. Which empire was ruled by Genghis Khan? Mongol Empire. At its height, the Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire in history, stretching from Eastern Europe to the Sea of Japan. Which country was the first to send a human into space? Soviet Union. Cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin completed his historic orbital flight in 1961, becoming the first human in space. Which explorer led the first expedition to circumnavigate the globe? Ferdinand Magellan. Magellan himself was killed in the Philippines partway through the voyage. His crew completed the circumnavigation without him. Which battle is considered the turning point of the American Civil War? Battle of Gettysburg. The battle resulted in over 50,000 combined casualties across 3 days, the deadliest single battle of the war. Which queen ruled England during the defeat of the Spanish Armada? Elizabeth I. The Spanish Armada's defeat in 1588 marked a major turning point in England's rise as a naval power. Which country was formerly known as Persia? Iran. The country officially changed its international name from Persia to Iran in 1935 at the request of its government. Which empire was Constantinople the capital of? Byzantine Empire. Constantinople eventually fell to the Ottoman Empire in 1453, marking the end of the Byzantine Empire and the city's renaming to Istanbul. Who was the first Roman emperor? Augustus. Julius Caesar was never technically emperor. He was a dictator, and his adopted heir Augustus became the first true emperor in 27 BC. Which dynasty built the Forbidden City? Ming Dynasty. Construction of the Forbidden City took about 14 years and required over 1 million workers. Which ancient civilization developed one of the earliest writing systems, cuneiform? Sumerian. Cuneiform was originally developed for record-keeping and accounting purposes before evolving to record literature and law. Which country was formerly known as Siam? Thailand. The country officially changed its name from Siam to Thailand in 1939. Who was the last Tsar of Russia? Nicholas II. Nicholas II and his family were executed by Bolshevik forces in 1918 following the Russian Revolution. Who wrote the Communist Manifesto? Karl Marx. Marx co-authored the document with Friedrich Engels, though Marx is more commonly credited as the primary author. Which country was the first to grant women the right to vote nationally? New Zealand. New Zealand granted women full voting rights in 1893, decades ahead of most Western nations. Which ancient wonder was located in Alexandria, Egypt? Lighthouse of Alexandria. It stood for over 1,000 years before being destroyed by a series of earthquakes between the 10th and 14th centuries. Which pharaoh is most associated with the Exodus story in the Bible? Ramesses II. While widely associated with the Exodus narrative in popular culture, no definitive archaeological evidence directly confirms this identification. Which country was formerly known as the Great Wall's primary defender against invasions? China. Various dynasties contributed to the wall over centuries, with much of the surviving structure dating to the Ming Dynasty. Which ancient library was famously destroyed, resulting in a massive loss of classical knowledge? Library of Alexandria. Historians still debate the exact cause and timeline of its destruction, with theories ranging from accidental fire to deliberate acts across several centuries.